Hi, everybody. I'm Michele DeLuca. This is Nancy Proulx, and together we are The Power Portal, a podcast about accessing your own personal power and the very best way to do it. Nancy is an intuitive counselor. I'm a journalist and an author and a researcher on matters of consciousness. And we are going to talk about first your journey and about how the journey is more important than the goal.
Yeah, I guess this is probably fairly common for everybody. And in our earlier life, we're always taught about being very outgoing, and we're interested in how we're going to make a living, what we're going to do for making the living, right? Taking care of the family. So we're always sending our energy out. And as I have matured and gotten older, I've learn to appreciate those times of being able to reflect on the journey. And the important part about it is if we don't have time to reflect, we never get that point where we have soul expansion, where we feel like, oh yeah, this is what I've learned, this is what I've cleared out. And for me, there's a deep sense of fulfillment that comes when we complete maybe a life cycle. And life cycles, we could have shorter life cycles, but a lot of us, when you look at astrology, we have 30-year life cycles.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah. 30 years. That makes sense. I feel like I began coming into my own at 30, and once again in my late 50s and 60s, where you have a choice to either grow or die, as far as I'm concerned. When you're heading into your elder years, I was telling you earlier how for me it was like hitting a wall when I realized that when I was job hunting at age 69, that there are a lot of people who would say, why would we even consider someone at that age? And I had to really readjust my feelings about getting older and aging, because as we have discussed many times, it is the journey and not the goal. For me, the journey towards living the best elderhood that I can is now become the foremost central idea of the remainder of my life, doing it the very best I can, the most creatively, most fulfilling. So the journey is compared to the goal. Start from the beginning and tell me a little bit about how you came to this idea that the journey, I know we've both read this in a lot of books about self-improvement and human potential, but it came home to you in your life process. And
with the horses,
exactly.
Most of my lessons have been around the horses, since it's been such a big part of my life. I started to, probably around the age 40, realize that I was chasing the blue ribbon, the goal. Okay, and every horse show, every class became an obsession, and to do that perfection, that perfect performance. And
because you were quite a respected equestrian at the time, in your early 30s, right?
Yes.
You devoted a great deal of time to working with your horses and training your horse, especially Charisma, and becoming someone of note in the ring. And there was a point then when you thought maybe
it wasn't fulfilling
more. Yes,
it was not fulfilling anymore. And when I look back at that, I was in search of more of a connection, a deepening with the horse, a deepening within myself. So, I never even let myself at that point reflect on those first 30, 35 years and how wonderful it was. As I have matured and allowed myself that time and that space to sit in my inner world. It's a shift, and I was telling you that when I look at my life, I only remember the good things that have happened, the things. So because I have spent time to drop within, to go back and say, oh, what did I learn from that time in my life? Or what did I learn from that experience, even if it was a painful experience?
So the word that I've been thinking about lately is you kind of neutralized the challenges and the pain from the most painful of your life experiences. You neutralized maybe the emotion so that when you revisited them, they didn't carry the weight that they carried had you not taken the time to think about them and process them.
I would even go beyond neutralizing. I would say accessing the gift of the experience.
I like that even better.
Yeah.
Because as we have talked on this podcast, even the darkest moments carry gifts within them. Describe for me a little bit about how that began to be your truth.
Well, I mean, realizing first of all that I kind of got stuck in some negative thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like our body, for some reason, negative emotions or painful emotions are just more powerful, and we remember them. And so that, looking at the glass half empty versus half full was where I got stuck a lot.
I think we all get stuck a lot there. I sometimes shock myself when I'm berating myself or being hard on myself for silly little things, and I think, why don't you reminisce the wonderful things that happened in your life, the wonderful accomplishments you made, instead of kind of being hard on yourself for the things you weren't happy with, the way you behaved, or the result of a project. Why not instead, I'm saying to myself and my consciousness, why don't you ever ruminate on the triumphs and the successes you had?
Yeah, and it's just as simple as we're talking about the journey being more important than the goal. The journey of being able to reflect on it, sitting down at a meditation or maybe a quiet space. I tell people it's much easier to go sit watching a sunset than sit down and meditate. So when you're starting out, go
watch the sunset.
Go be out in nature. Go be with the horse. Go be in something that raises your vibration.
Exactly.
So
perfect.
That helps. But then being aware, when I first started to meditate, what came up was just your negative thoughts. Well, I didn't want to sit there and sit in that space of quiet have just.
No one does.
So we have the power to change that. We have the power to, in those quiet times, say, "Oh, let me look at that. What's the gift? What did I learn? I can change my thought about that. That person, maybe they had some judgment against you, and you can just say, oh, can I just sit in my own power?
Yes.
And
yes.
realize that underneath that, nobody can take my power away.
Only you can take your power away. That's ancient wisdom.
Yeah.
Only you can give it away. Can you give us some examples in your own life where these ideas have come to fruition, where you recognized a change in you from these habits?
I had just recently wrote a new blog on this, and where it came from was I was just walking down the hill. It's probably a good mile down and then back again. And I have lived out in that area for about 25 years, and a lot has been experienced through the neighborhood. And as I walked down that hill, I was able to be so present and have so many beautiful memories come up and things that had moved through my life. And I felt like, oh my God, this is really what deep reflection in the moment feels like. And again, it helps to be out in nature and doing something we like to access those. But I realized that wow, this was a whole period of time. This is what I was talking about, that 30-year period. And
so many things happened, things you would probably never remember without really being conscious of going back in time. Some things we never remember anyway, as I see from my journaling. I go like, oh my, I completely forgot that happened.
Yeah.
30 years is a long time. And yet you recalled for me when we were talking about it earlier that all you felt was deep gratitude. And I think that's the secret to life.
And expansion. Like I realized how much growth I had made in those 30 years. And where I am, where we are today, where we're looking at the next 30 years as, oh, this is not stopping. We are continuing to grow.
It took me a while to come to that after
Yeah.
I realized, after this phone call with this human resources director for this job that I felt I was perfect for. When I hung up, it was like splat against the wall. It was like, oh my God, I'm going to be 70. And it hadn't quite occurred to me that I was going to be 70 until just then, in terms of employment from the outside world, where someone might look at me and go, this 70-year-old woman is applying for a job with us. Is she kidding? I'm sorry to say that it's very often true that people, if applying for a job, the person doing the hiring might prefer someone much younger, because the investment of time and getting to know, say, the position takes a while, and no one wants the 70-year-old to retire a few months after they've taken the job. And I wouldn't have of course, because I had been looking forward to a job like that. But it's just, first of all, the things we tell ourselves, and then the things we have to be aware of that other people are thinking, because we know the culture.
Yeah, we're shifting the paradigm.
We are shifting.
We're pioneers.
We are pioneers in aging. I've always felt like, from my generation, and I maybe on the edges of mine, which was the baby boomers who did the environmental movement and the civil rights movement and the women's rights movement, and really kind of pushed the big shift. It is the baby boomers and those right behind us, like you are, that can now begin to create good big change on the planet.
Yeah, and I think when we talk about the disappointment, we can't get stuck, like you were saying about, okay, I hit a wall. We need, right when we feel those thoughts, we need to shift them. And remember, when we co-create with spirit, we say, allow me this or something better.
Oh, I love that.
Okay.
I love that.
So it's like, oh, okay, this is faith and trust. You know, that you're at this space of, yeah, I know I want to move forward. I want to grow. I want to contribute. I want to be of service. And
all those things.
Of course. Right. So anytime we recognize negative thought, this whole manifesting process, what we have been taught is don't feel that. Don't feel that. Don't think that. It actually disconnects us from our body, because we shift up and out of the body. Instead of coming in and saying, where in my body do I feel that resistance? Can I ask for the help of the grace to dissolve this resistance? Okay, and as we practice moving that resistance, we actually are raising that vibration, and then you intentionally add in, I want to create. Okay, I want to be of service. I am value. Yes. And we have to feel it. We can't just think it.
It was so shocking of an awareness coming. It took me, I would say, several weeks to really understand. Having always felt like I was in my 30s, pushing 70 is shocking. And it was such an awareness. I think I had been pushing the idea of aging so far into my future that I'm near 70 now, I'm 69 years old, and now I am facing the idea of aging, because I kept thinking, well, it doesn't matter. I feel youthful, I can do this work. And so that was the wall, but I was grateful simply for a variety of reasons, but certainly the conversations that we've shared. I was grateful to have the awareness that really what I want is to live my best life until my last breath.
And the journey is really going in and claiming that worthiness.
Yes.
That I am worthy of this, so that you attract it. Okay? So when you say it was shocking, I think back to the horses, fight, flight, or freeze. Shocking, you froze.
I did freeze. That's why it took me a while to get over it.
Yeah. Yes. So that's where we want to go back in, breathe through, find that resistance, breathe through it, move through it, change that mindset. But it takes time. It takes practice. it takes being willing to commit to rewiring and really feeling it. And I would, Michelle, you have done such wonderful things in your field.
Why, thank you.
And you want to spend more time just spending time in that. Oh my gosh, I have been an acclaimed writer, newspaper editor. You've produced a TV show. You have done so much.
Thanks, Nance.
And if we stay in that feeling of wow, that's what we bring forward.
The wow. You bring the wow forward.
Yeah.
Oh, aren't those beautiful words? I love that.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about how you went from horses and animals to people, because you started, you trained for 5 years in a program with Carolyn Mays and Norm Shelley.
Mm-hmm.
That's right. And Carolyn is an acclaimed medical intuitive, best-selling author, lecturer, philosopher, mystic.
Mm-hmm.
She's incredible. And Nancy trained with her for 5 years and then began work as an animal intuitive, an animal. I like to call her a horse whisperer, because that is exactly what she was. But truly, she was an animal whisperer. And in the years that followed, you moved out of being a competitive equestrian into the healer, communicator, intuitive communicator mode. And you found that as you were healing animals, you were also healing their people, healing the owners of the animals. And I want you to maybe carry it forward a little bit to talk about how now your work with the animals is translating into your intention to work strongly, more intently with humans.
Yeah, the animals mirror a lot of times what maybe is not complete in us. And it's very similar, I always say it's very similar to a marriage, that when we get married to someone, we have our things that hook up, and then we have our conflicts, right? And the relationship is obviously, the most important schoolroom on the planet. So whether it's a relationship with your animal or a relationship with a human, I just find that bringing the lightness of animals at first into people going into their inner world is a little bit gentler than a lot of times bringing a relationship right away. So I find that I took that route because people were able to reflect on what they needed to change in order to improve their relationship with their animal. And a lot of times we don't want to look if we think the other person is to blame, correct?
And yes, and I'm guessing people are shocked when you say, well, the trouble that your animal is having with boundaries is perhaps a little bit of your own. People are like, what, me?
Yeah. Or reactivity, a dog reactivity on a,
sure.
How safe does that person feel in their body? Is that dog acting as that protector?
Yes.
So it's all about really the animal also teaching the person to go to that deeper space to learn a deeper lesson, a bigger, more important lesson. I have found now that the horses were very integral part of helping me develop my intuition and my empathy. I feel like I'm the horse now. I feel like I have that ability to sit in front of someone and know, okay, this is where you're stuck, or
and let me help you explain that, because we have been in your barn together, and you have helped me understand that if we are not standing in our truth, in feeling our truth, that the horse will respond in a way like step away or turn away or do something to signal the fact that the horse feels in his body or her body that you are not standing in your truth. And what you have learned to do is to become the horse for the person that's standing in front of you or sitting in front of you or that you're counseling on the telephone, and feel in your body whether or not that person is telling that person's truth to you and to themselves. That's a fascinating way to describe the way your work is going to be moving forward. And keeping in mind that we're still talking about the journey, this is your journey. There, and if I were to say to you, Nance, what's your goal? I'm guessing you would say to be on the journey.
And the journey is to drop the head to the heart.
Okay, again, words. I want you to help you explain. Drop the head to the heart.
And this is the biggest thing: is I can sit in front of a person and know when they're in their mind and in their head and in their ego and in their thinking brain, and they're going around in the circle and the circle and the circle, and they're afraid to drop into their heart. Maybe because if I have to become this, people won't approve. I might have to change a relationship. I might have to change a job. I might have to.
Yes, terrifying things.
Yeah,
right?
Terrifying things, right.
Yeah.
And I think it's about not only holding space, which the horses do, to hold space for that person to say, well, just because you're voicing it doesn't mean that you have to do it. There are other tools and things, like if it's maybe leaving a job. Let's try learning how to move your emotion. Let's try learning how to communicate better. Let's try, there's different, your
things
mindset.
To try.
Yes, there are different tools that, because I've had people that come and they think they need to leave their husband, or and that's terrifying to them. But it's not necessarily about that. It's about becoming authentic within yourself and being able to open up and be vulnerable and explain that to the other person and give them time to shift and change. And people think once I make that decision, it's done. Well, that doesn't necessarily. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this. When you talk about dropping from your head to your heart, I still struggle with that. I'm not even sure what that means. And I've been trying to do that a lot lately, because Nancy's not only speaking of this, but other mystics are as well.
Mm-hmm.
Living life from your heart space rather than your head space. Mm-hmm. I really like being in my head space. It's safe there. So how do you get your heart space, and how do you know when you're there?
You feel, I am so competent for this. I know it's coming to me. I know the best of life is going to happen, that my service is going to open up, and you know without a doubt. There's nothing that pops you up to your head to go back onto the gerbil wheel.
Oh,
and you know when you're in your ego, when it just keeps making that loop and you're not good enough and you're yeah. So it's that when you're in your heart, you're in your authentic self. You're in your power.
I love that idea. As I'm becoming an elder, mm-hmm. I really appreciate the idea that, because in our culture, when you are pushing 70, you are old. I was just reading a novel the other day where they described a 70-year-old as an old woman. And I was like, what? Mm-hmm. Especially in our era, 70 does not feel like I don't think a 70-year-old is an old person. Maybe that's because I'm pushing 70, but I think that if we adopt your idea of living kind of vibrantly and alive and proudly and with certainty of our worth in our hearts, I love the idea, that's all I have to do, that I can begin to really feel as if I'm living in my head, will perhaps quiet down and mm-hmm. go, all right, you and your heart are being really noisy, so I can't get a negative word in edgewise.
Even describing that, you never came fully into your heart and into your power.
Oh, you noticed that?
Yes.
Well,
because it's not
I'm not used
there.
To being there.
Yeah, so you're still kind of in that struggle between the head and the heart. Okay?
What was the giveaway for you? I'm intuitive. I really need to know. Was it because I kept listening for my own words?
Yeah, you have to feel it. And that's what the stillness of the journey and, the reflecting and the, I remember years ago having a dream, and my sister who has passed away, and she took her own life. So she sent me on this journey. So she was stuck in this depression place. And in this dream, she was trying to teach me how to fly a plane, and I couldn't get it off the ground. So I was trying to fly, okay, to free my
Wow.
spirit. And the guy came to help me, to teach me, and he said, you don't need money. You need manna. That's grace. That's about being connected.
Wow.
Grace. We need grace. We need to be connected. We need to really stay in that and work. It's a journey to come into that space. Okay,
Yes.
where you
Certainly
are
is a journey.
connected
Absolutely.
and you can manifest from that place. You manifest effortlessly from that place. So that was like, oh, that's a really
That's
interesting
a really
dream.
great dream.
Yeah.
So now what goes on in your head? Or let's go back to me. I'll be the guinea pig here. So to continue on the journey of going to my heart instead of living in my head, I just it sounds like something I'd have to remind myself to do many times a day, in traffic, when I'm writing, when I'm videotaping, I don't know, whenever I'm in a relationship, tending my 92-year-old aunt, caretaking for all my beloved people, always to still the mind and live in the heart. That
So
sounds like really hard work.
so this is why affirmations don't work.
Really?
Just
Tell me more.
affirmations, okay? Because you're just trying to reprogram from the mind, and you're not dropping in to find the tension in the body where it's stored. Where's that thought stored? How do I find that? Well, in the tension from the mind comes to the shoulders. This is where you spend time in the quiet. Look, I'm not afraid to access that. Where's that feeling in my? Where's that feeling? That tension in my body? I can really drop into it and just feel it and ask for grace. Ask for that light. Yeah, the light that you put on it to.
When you say ask for, you're speaking perhaps of ask your higher self, ask your guides, ask your angels, ask the God that you pray to. Frankly, I think it's all the same God, but
It
that's
is.
just me.
Yeah, that's us too. but
Practice
yeah.
whatever religion you want, but really, there's just one divine essence out there.
And we
I
all
think.
have a divine spark in us.
I love that
But
too.
it's clearing away all of that. So those thought patterns, it's not only just your thought pattern, it's the collective that we're washed up. You have a lot to work, because that's in the collective.
I do believe in the collective, and I know that these days our collective is very frightened, or at least discombobulated, or discontent. The collective, there's a lot of worry and anxiety, and it sits like a cloud, I think, around the globe. And maybe it started during COVID. Maybe it's just our time. There's, everyone feels like, oh my God, there's going to be a shakeup, and certainly there is a shakeup going on right now, because it's the journey and it's not the goal. We will likely never be a globe, an earth that feels like heaven, although some days do and some days don't. But we can evolve and we can move forward in our consciousness, probably love each other a great deal more than we do right now, and ease that kind of cloud of fear and distrust and unhappiness that's circling the globe right now. And I really believe that what we've just discussed about being aware of how your body feels and dropping into your heart is a vital aspect of that, because you know what they say, start local. What is the expression? Start with yourself if you want to change the world.
Don't focus on the war that's going on around the planet, but focus on the war within you.
Ooh,
that
big
war is that I'm 70. I'm never going to get a job. There's your, as we move through our own personal inner wars and clear through them and make peace, we clear the collective.
I love that.
Yeah.
Just as a PS on my issues, I have come to the conclusion that the jobs that I want, I'll be hiring myself for, and just proceed and make the movies and write the books that I want to, and live under my own power.
And you have to, as we make a new goal, we want to look at, oh, geez, what are my fears around creating that? Because, right?
Yeah. What are my fears?
Yeah. And as they come up, we deal with them. Okay. Yes. I can stay focused on a goal because I've made this choice. Yeah. And so we're not going to throw the goal out. Okay. But we're going to be aware every step along the journey because you're creating now in these next third of your life.
Yes, I am. And believe me, the goal is there. The end goal is actually the end of my life, and the journey is what remains of my life. And so, it's ever more important now that I enjoy every step of the way as best I can, or at least do my best work as a human. And contribute to the consciousness by living as often as possible in my heart, I think.
And we're changing, like I said, a paradigm that, first of all, we're going to be living longer, okay? And we're going to be living healthy, okay?
We are.
So much of the diseases of our elders are memory things. They're memories and Alzheimer's and senility. It's about my world has gotten smaller and smaller and smaller that third of my life until they look forward to nothing other than escaping.
Right, and then they begin to escape.
Yes, and they escape the planet then through death.
And so, as I move into the remainder of my life and as you do as yours, this is the bulk of time that we have left to influence and to better and to bring more to the planet than we came in with, to leave it better than we found it.
Right. Fascinating.
It is fascinating. I love talking about this with you. Although you did get me. No, I'm sorry, but anyway, I love that about you. Thank you for that. There's more information if you look below and click on the more. And if you like this podcast, join us again next time. Thanks so much.
Thank you.